Welcome back, college football and black and gold fans, to the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, the only channel where we examine, discuss, celebrate, and honor all things college football across the entire college football landscape. In other words, here on the channel, we got you covered for all things college football. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks. Welcome back to the channel, and it's a huge, big-time episode on the channel today. That's right, the accumulation and the climax of the current college football season. This is my national championship game preview and prediction episode, and what an absolute treat and matchup we have. It makes total sense after the great year that we witnessed play out on the gridiron that it comes down to this. Two teams enter, one team leaves. Or if you prefer Highlander, there can be only one. I mean, what a matchup we have. And before I say anything else, welcome back, all of you. Thank you very much for your time, your attention, your support. Here I am about to wrap up season 3 of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, and this has hands down been my most smashing, successful season. Thanks all to you for everything you've done for the channel, but we still got some work to do. I need your help to help spread the word about the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. So please tell your fellow college football fanatics, your family members, your friends, to check me out here on the channel, and make sure to like, share, subscribe, comment, get involved. I want to find more college football fans just like you. So please help me out, and let's spread the word and keep a good thing going, and let's get even stronger at the end of this season. And everything is going great for the channel. I mean, lately, likes, views, subscriptions, comments are way up. And if this is your first time joining me here on the channel, I always encourage and welcome and ask for your participation, because without you, none of this would be possible. It's an absolute blessing for me to be here with you, to share my love for all things college football with you, my fellow fans. I want to hear from you. Please comment below to anything that you want to add, critique, or question my insight, my analysis, my opinion. I want to hear from you. Exercise your right as a college football fan. Use your voice, and I promise, via comments, I will get back to each and every one of you much sooner than later in those comments. So please get involved, comment, subscribe. Can't wait to hear from you. And I want to give a big shout out. Welcome to all the University of Michigan Wolverine fans who are returning or the first-time viewers, and a big shout out and welcome back, or a welcome initially, to the Washington Husky fans who are tuning in for this episode. And by the way, welcome to the Big Ten. I guess it's unofficially official, but I can't wait to see you guys next season inside Kinnick Stadium in Iowa City when Washington travels to Iowa to take on my Hawkeyes. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive right in here. Kind of just give you an overall summary of the national championship game. Here we are on the eve of that matchup. I'm sorry, I wanted to get this episode out yesterday. Just got really caught up, busy. But the game features number 1, Michigan versus number 2, Washington. Kickoff time is set as 6:30 p.m. Central Time down in NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. And hopefully Houston, there won't be any problems. Now, how these two teams got here. Number 1, Michigan defeated number 4, Alabama in the Rose Bowl, 27-20 in overtime. An absolute instant classic there in Pasadena. Number 2, Washington defeated number 3, Texas in the Sugar Bowl, 37-31. An absolute instant classic there. Just when it looked like everything was wrapped up for the Huskies, they kind of had to sweat it out there at the end. But what victories for both of these two teams. And when you look at the Vegas lines, Vegas has this pegged as Michigan is a 4.5-point favorite here on the eve of the game, and the over-under is set at 56.5 points. So that's the quick summary of how these two teams got here, who's facing off. Now let's move into some storylines for this game. And I love this game has storylines aplenty. I mean, some that are very obvious on the surface, some that you kind of have to dive into and fall between the cracks to really identify. But this is the classic matchup in this game of defense versus offense. You've got the Michigan defense versus the Washington offense. And to share some of these stats in these rankings with you, really summarize that and prove it, all right? Let's look at the Michigan defense. They are ranked as the #1 overall defense in the nation. And with that, they are the #2 red zone defense in the nation, which that's going to be a huge factor, I believe, coming into this game. Who can punch it in for 6 compared to 3 in the red zone when they get some chances and attempts. And also, Michigan is the #2 least allowed passing yards per game in the nation. They are allowing 150 yards passing per game. That is a huge number. Even though it's a low number, it's a huge low number. Hopefully I didn't lose you there, compared to what Michael Penix Jr., Washington's quarterback, has thrown for every game. So it's going to be absolute defense. Now let's look at the Washington offense and their numbers. Overall, the Washington defense is the 10th best offense in the nation coming into this game, but they are the #1 overall passing offense, and that pass attack is led by a great maestro himself, a current present-day John Williams, Leonard Bernstein. I'm talking about Michael Penix Jr., the Heisman Trophy finalist. His numbers this season, absolute jump off the page when you look at it. He has thrown for 4,648 yards with a TD to interception ratio of 35-9. So right there, it tells you exactly what these two teams' primary strengths are. I mean, it's going to be such a great matchup of different styles. It's kind of like when you watch the March Madness tournament, right? When you watch a Wisconsin team that wants to slow you down and play a half court compared to the old UNLV running Rebels or UCLA, they want to get up and down the court like that. Because when you have two difference in styles, they make for really entertaining fights. And I cannot wait to see this one play out. So here's the storyline that I'm going to share with you, because I have said this throughout the entire season consistently. And if you don't believe me, watch some of my previous episodes. It's right there. I picked both of these teams to get to the college football playoff, all right? A lot of people, experts or amateurs like myself, I never claim to be an expert, okay? I never have, I never will. I do know a thing or two about college football. So most everybody expected Michigan to be here, but I was one of the very few people who on air, on record, picked Washington to be here as well. I did not pick them to get to the national championship game, though, but I did pick them to represent the Pac-12, or whatever that conference is going to be called moving forward, in this year's college football playoff field. So all season long, all right, I have been saying that the best team has been Michigan. Even before they were ranked behind Georgia, consistently I said Michigan is the best team in the nation, but I also said consistently every week that Washington is the most dangerous team this season because of that potent quick strike offense, all right? So I cannot wait to watch this matchup. I know I've said that several times, but I'm so excited and so stoked to watch this. I mean, kind of a different teams that are going to be there, all right? Man, it's going to be a great matchup. So, and the other storyline of this, I got to say it. I mean, if you've watched me before, you know I am not some Hawkeye Homer Simpson. I'm not a Big Ten homer. First and foremost, I'm a college football fan. all right? And I've learned all these years to go with this compared to this sometimes, all right? But I've got to say, the Big Ten, I mean, after a very long hiatus, the Big Ten will crown a champion. Because next season, as I already mentioned, Washington joins the Big 12 the Big Ten officially. Sorry, I do my own stunts here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I don't do any edits. I don't do any retakes because that would be a job and this is a hobby. So pardon me there. They join the Big Ten next season, and Michigan already being a member of the Big Ten, we're going to have a champion. So the Dr. Pepper National Championship Trophy returns back to Big Ten country. Now, I get it. Some of you might be saying, well, Washington's not a Big Ten school yet. I get it. But then again, it's going to be displayed if they are able to defeat Michigan at a Big 10 university. Wow, the Big 12. I keep saying that for. The Big 10 university. Excuse me. All right. So really, the other storyline is this is the last dance for the Pac-12. I mean, kind of like the old Diane Warwick song, Let's Dance, the Last Dance. That's what it is here for the Pac-12, and what a potential way for them to ride off into the sunset with the Natty title in hand and say goodbye to the Conference of Champions. I mean, what a big story. That's the storylines we have there in this game. Really intriguing, all right? Next thing I want to move into is some player or players to watch during this game. And please, once again, get involved, comment, like, share, subscribe. Can't wait to hear from you. I'll definitely have this wrapped up at the 25-minute mark, so hang with me a little bit longer. So my player or players to watch, whether it's a single individual, a unit on the field, I think that these can be the individuals or units that can make a big factor into who I predict is going to win this game. So let's go through the Michigan player or players to watch. You got to start off with running back Blake Corum. I mean, you talk about a Rose Bowl for the ages. I mean, rushing touchdowns, big catches out of the backfield, that fourth and 3, 4th and 2, late in the fourth quarter. I mean, just when they needed it, he provided it. The other players to watch, you've got to say all eyes are going to be on that Michigan offensive line. I mean, after all, they are the back-to-back defending winners of the Joe Moore Award, which goes annually to the best offensive line in the nation. And the majority of those guys came back this year for this exact purpose. They had unfinished business and they wanted to win a national title. So the offensive line, that's going to be a big key. Can they push around the Washington front seven the way they did against Alabama and really against everybody else they've played this season? Okay, can they accomplish that one more time? All right. And the other players to watch, I mean, I think these two cats are going to be huge for Michigan if they're looking to bring home the title. I'm talking about their tight ends, that duo of Colston Loveland and A.J. Barner. I think they're going to find themselves open in the middle, underneath. I think J.J. McCarthy will be able to find them in space periodically during this game and keep those chains moving. So I do expect those two tight ends to show up and show out. Now, the player or players to watch for the Washington Huskies, I got to start with the man I already mentioned, quarterback Michael Penix Jr., a guy I know a lot about, the former Indiana quarterback who transferred out west to Washington. I mean, already mentioned, a Heisman Trophy finalist this season. I mean, this guy is an absolute stud. He is a man among men, a stud among studs, however you want to word this, all right? And in a way, it's really kind of poetic justice or irony that things really now have kind of come full circle for Michael Penix and Michigan, all right? Because if you remember, the COVID-shortened season of the Big Ten in 2020, Michael Penix led Indiana to that undefeated season, the regular season, right? And I believe it was week 2 or 3, they defeated Michigan, a ranked Michigan team coming off that upset against little brother in-state rival Michigan State. And Joe Milton was there, and obviously Indiana won big that day against Michigan and Coach John Harbaugh. And that really kind of started the couple years of the bad times for Michigan. Is Coach Harbaugh going to survive? Where is this program headed? So now we've kind of seen the full circle of that. I mean, Michael Penix versus Michigan. So I can't wait to watch this maestro get out there and perform. You talk about one of the crispest, smoothest, best-looking vertical passes anywhere on the field. Short, intermediate, deep pass, short, intermediate. Sorry, I got a little bit of a throat ache. He can throw it anywhere on the field, all over the schoolyard. Can't wait to see it. Now, the people that he's going to throw it to, the next players to watch, is kind of the three-headed wide receiver monster for Washington, the King Ghidorah for all you Godzilla fans. I'm talking about Rome Odunze, Jalen Polk, and Jalen McMillan. I mean, pick your poison. Either one of these three guys can defeat you themselves. I mean, it looks like sometimes Michael Penix is just throwing up a prayer, but he's throwing it right to a spot to where he knows one of these three is going to be. The Michigan defensive backfield is going to have their work cut out for them. I do not believe they're going to be able to go man-on-man in this game against this wide receiver core like your boy here told them they could against Alabama and Jalen Milroe, which I ended up being correct, by the way. Got a lot of flack against saying that officially, but they cannot do that. So I cannot wait to watch that matchup of the Michigan secondary against this three-headed wide receiver monster for Washington, especially Rome Odunze. The guy is going to be a top 10 draft pick here in a few months. And the last player or players to watch is another three-headed monster. I'm talking about the Washington linebacker core of Olofonso, Bruner, and Tuputala. These guys must tackle in space and clean up because we know what Michigan's going to want to do. They're going to want to dominate both lines of scrimmage, especially along the offensive line, get that ground and pound run game going, whether it's Blake Corum or Donovan Edwards. Also let J.J. McCarthy do a little bit of scramble as well. So the point of attack along that offensive line versus defensive line, it might be lost by the Washington D-line, but these three linebackers have to come up, fill those gaps, and they must tackle soundly, and they must clean up. They must try to not give up these 30, 40, 50-yard runs against this Michigan run attack. Just try to contain them the best you can, all right? So that's my player or players to watch for both Michigan and Washington. Please comment, like, share, subscribe, get involved. Thanks again for all you do. Now let's move into my keys to victory in this national championship game. Let's go and start off with Michigan. It's all about ball possession. First and foremost, possessing the ball. They average 32 minutes per game, which is 13th best in the nation, because we know what they want to do. Their first and second option is run the ball, but especially in this matchup against such a potent quick strike offense, the best way to defeat that is to keep them off the field and limit their possessions. Just like what the service academies do running the triple option wishbone. That's how they're able to level the playing field. Next thing for Michigan is they want to control both lines of scrimmage. I already said that. We saw what they did against Alabama and quarterback Jalen Milroe. Definitely a dual threat guy. Could absolutely hurt you with his legs. And that Michigan front seven made those legs absolutely obsolete and non-existent. They were not a factor at all during that Rose Bowl game. So they still want to continue to dominate that line, especially the defensive line, and try to get to Michael Penix. And that's the next main point for Michigan, keys to victory, is they must corral, not just corral, but bring Michael Penix Jr. to the ground. They must sack him. Now, Michael Penix Jr. is not the athlete of Jalen Milroe. His first and second preference is to throw the ball, but he can extend plays a little bit with his legs, but not to the level of the upper echelon athletic dual threat quarterbacks. He can, but this guy lives in the danger zone. I mean, when a lot of quarterbacks would absolutely tuck and run, I've watched plenty of Washington games this season to where when that pocket is collapsing, he stands in there, moves to his right or left or steps up and still delivers a beautiful pass. So you must complete that pressure and get to him. That's what they're going to want to do, what they need to do to keep him in check. And the one thing, too, about Washington's offensive line, they are a physical team, all right? And when we look at the stats, I think this also shows how quickly Michael Penix Jr. can get rid of that ball, the beautiful left-handy southpaw that he is. The offensive line for Washington has only allowed 11 sacks this season, which is 5th lowest in the entire nation. So that's going to be a big part of this too. And last key to victory for Michigan, if you watch the Rose Bowl, that was kind of unheard of, perhaps an anomaly, and it needs to be. Hasn't really happened to that level the entire season. I'm talking they must have no special teams gaffes and must be sound in their kicking game. I mean, their special teams overall, period, in the Rose Bowl nearly cost them the game. It definitely was a factor, but it could have cost them the difference between advancing and being home back in Ann Arbor for a longer period of time. So that's what I believe are the keys to victory for Michigan. Now for Washington, their keys to victory, they must be clean. Limit the penalties and the self-inflicted wounds. I say that because surprisingly, normally teams who commit this many penalties do not have this much success. They give up they are called, or they commit 7.5 penalties per game. That's the number 124th worst in the nation. All right, this is a highly penalized team the entire season. They must not help Michigan, and they cannot get any laundry thrown on the field. They must play clean and smart. Next is they must create some traction and yards in that ground game. They need to be able to not necessarily be two-dimensional, but they need to run the ball to keep Michigan at least honest. They need to get something going, and that falls on running back Dillon Johnson, who is back after a late injury in that Sugar Bowl. Bless him. I'm so glad he's going to be back. He said he is ready to rock and roll officially. And this is a guy who rushed for 1,100 plus yards on the season and 16 rushing touchdowns. So he's no slouch. He can run the ball, but it's going to be difficult, I believe, against that Michigan front seven. But they need to get something. They need to be able to just, if they can rush for 100 to 150 yards, that's really what the target should be. All right, and that's what they needed to do, I think, to be able to win this game. And last but not least, the key to victories for Washington, Michael Penix Jr. I mean, just let him show up and show out and ball out. That's it. If he plays his game, this could very well be a Washington National Championship heading back to Seattle. All right, so please like, share, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think about my keys to victory for either team. Can't wait to hear from you. Now, the moment you all been waiting for is my official prediction for the national championship game. And this was a tough one for me, all right? I mean, these have been the two best teams this season from start to finish. Michigan has looked the best on the field. Washington has the best list of legit victories in the loaded Pac-12 conference this season. The conference that I told you all this season was from top to bottom the deepest, best conference in the nation, and it did not let us down. And these are the two teams with the biggest chips on their shoulder as well. With everything going on with Michigan and the Jim Harbaugh issues for the sign stealing, his multiple missed games this season, being kicked off the sidelines. And then you have Washington, who has really been the underdog. Underdog, Huskies. See what I did there? They've been the underdog all season. This is the team that defeated Oregon early in the season, all right? A very big win at the time. And then when they rematched Oregon in the Pac-12 title game, they were a 9-point underdog in that game, all right? I did not understand that line at all. So these two teams have huge chips on their shoulder. And the thing I love about this game is these are the only two remaining undefeated teams in college football. So the winner can say they are not just on the field, but also via their record. So the winner will be the only undefeated team left. So here's where I am. I've been saying all year, Michigan was the best team, as I said. I did pick them preseason to win the national championship. I've been saying Washington, on the other hand, is the most dangerous team all in the nation, all season, excuse me. So it comes down to this. I expect a great game. I think it's going to be under the 56.5. I think it's going to be a close game throughout. Maybe the biggest lead in this game might be 10 to 13 points. So I expect it to be neck and neck and close. I really, really like Washington. And if they were playing anybody else other than Michigan, well, except for my Iowa Hawkeyes, of course. But since they're playing Michigan, the team that I picked to win the national championship game, I've got to stick with it. Hell or high water, I've got to do it. Because I picked them in the Rose Bowl, but I also made legit statements and arguments why I believe they were the better team than Alabama, which they were. We saw that. But if it was anybody else, I would pick Washington, but I just can't. I'm going with the Michigan Wolverines to get it done. Final score, Michigan 30, Washington 24. And I cannot wait to watch this game tomorrow night, guys. Thank you for everything you've done this entire season. I will be back for a national championship game reaction and recap episode. My Hawkeye fans, I know I've heard from you. I have yet to do a Citrus Bowl reaction and recap, but quite frankly, there's not much recap to do. I'm just waiting to see who Iowa finally hires as the next offensive coordinator. Here we are the second week in January, and we have no OC yet. That's great. And that's a great thing moving forward. But anyway, thank you for all that you've done this season. For the channel, thank you for being here with me for this episode. Please, I can't wait to hear from you. Comment, get involved, like, share, subscribe. Enjoy the game tomorrow night. And I'll see you very soon on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. Take care. Bye-bye.